Hi, I'm Rachel. That's Missy nestled between two pillows behind me. Not sure you can see her that well. She's napping for the moment. And we are here to do an Am Reading video for Friday, May 29th, 2020. So, at long last, I can say that I finished this book. Huzzah! I actually brought it with me to my parents' house in Baltimore, where I finally left my condo and my block and my county for the first time in 2.5 months. So that was fun. And all I really wanted to do, though, was sit on their balcony and read. I also, saw my niece and nephew and that good stuff, too. But anyway, I started this book back at the beginning of the month, and I always think I can do things piecemeal, and this one certainly. It's short stories, especially a lot of flash fiction, so it's easy to do piecemeal. But I have a lot of trouble with that. I just kind of prefer to, finish books more quickly. Or in this case, at least, I got much more invested in the later days of reading than the earlier days. And part of that probably does have to do with the fact that Bock's longer stories were in the middle, and I'm much more of a longer short story aficionado. I like that there's that space to actually develop some characters and themes and that sort of thing. I mean, I thought to myself, and I'm not sure, I have that bias of reading this how I read it, but the flash fiction, which is predominantly snippets of her childhood or her adult life with her parents, I don't know if all that stuff could stand on its own. It doesn't really have to. And ding went off behind me. But anyway, it doesn't really have to because it's part of a collection. So you get one little flash of her life with her family and then another flash of her life with her family, and it's sequential, and that's how, a collection works. But the longer stories really could kind of stand on their own, and I guess they were particularly compelling too because they're the ones where she went back into the past and really lovingly recreated her parents and their courtship. And there was interesting cultural overtones to everything because her parents, one of them was Jewish and one was Italian, and they were growing up in New York in like the 60s and the 50s. And so, there's these different intergenerational ideas about, interculturalism and all that. And then it was also just nice to see them as characters because when we saw them when Caroline Bock was a child, they were in very different places. Her mother very tragically suffered an aneurysm when Caroline was very young and spent most of the rest of her life in a psychiatric unit and wasn't very responsive, particularly in the titular story, Carry Her Home. But then when Bock reimagines her young adulthood, we get to see this vibrant, hopeful young woman trying to find her place, and there's just a beautiful reimagining of New York, and there's lots of smells and sounds and sights that happen in these stories. And her father is kind of eccentric and and weird, I guess, in his in these snippets and flash fictions when he's middle-aged and when he's older. But as a young adult, he also is more conventionally looking for purpose and is just like a young man on the town, so that was fun too. In the end, there's even a couple of stories that aren't autobiographical or don't seem to be, about certainly different characters. And a lot of them continue to be middle-aged women and that sort of thing, but I think they're really well done character portraits. And in a biased way, my favorite flash fiction story of hers was called The Critique Group, which was about the sort of atmosphere and the personality of her writing critique group, and it made me think a lot of my own, so there's that. And then there's even a slightly magical realist story in here called Willie and Pop, which is told from the perspective of her aging father and her brother's aging dog, because at this point the father's living with the brother and they're left alone in the house and they're both trying to reclaim youth. And I'm saying magical realist because it's like from the point of view of a dog, but I really thought that it brought some truths to light about the similarities between humans and our animal companions, and also just that theme of growing older and wanting youth back and going for it in certain scenes in this. Anyway, all good things, all good things. I really enjoy short story collections. I don't read as many as I do novels, but I love dipping into them and seeing what we can get when there's less space to develop the idea of a story and characters and themes, and I was impressed. Next, well, I recently just started Invisible as Air by Zoe Fishman. This is my fiction pick for the Maybe Midrash Readathon, which is hosted by a couple people here on BookTube. I'll link to my readathon video down below. The idea of the Maybe Midrash Readathon is to read one fiction and one nonfiction book that deals with religion. And this isn't technically Midrash, which is a Jewish term about expanding on biblical stories. And this isn't about biblical stories, it's just a portrayal of a modern Jewish American family. And within that, so far, there isn't a whole lot of Judaism. I wasn't necessarily thinking there would be, I was just hoping there'd be a little bit. And so far, so good. I'm not even that far into it. There could be more. There is a bar mitzvah coming up in the future, after all. But anyway, this is much more in my wheelhouse of family drama stories, because the major impetus of this highly internal drama story is that 3 years ago, the couple, Sylvie and Paul, lost a baby. And they've still sort of been in the throes of grief about that. And I appreciate a look into that, because I wonder if that's something that kind of goes overlooked a little bit, like because babies are so young and so fleeting, like, so should the grief be fleeting? I don't know, but it isn't, certainly not for these characters. And they're dealing with it in different ways. Well, actually, also slightly before the book started, Paul, who has turned into some sort of fitness crazy guy, sprained an ankle or something like that when he was riding his bike, and he was prescribed pain pills that he doesn't want to take, and Sylvie secretly starts to take them. It seems like, I'm not entirely sure what Fishman is trying to go for. It seems like what the pills are doing is making her open up more. Yeah, that definitely seems to be it. Like, she's talking a lot more about her feelings, so I guess her feelings aren't as painful to her with this, you know, this drug coursing through her system. In a way, I feel like things are a little heavy-handed and showy at the moment, although for me, I think I'm always a little more critical of books at the beginning, and then I get into them, and I like the characters, and I like them more at the end, and I don't dislike this book. I'm enjoying it. There is one sort of external plot thing, too, for the son, Teddy. He witnesses a side-swiping incident with 2 cars and befriends the punk girl in one of the cars, and they're starting to text flirtatiously, and I don't know, it's, you know, believable enough. I'm always iffy about too much external plot going on, but but you know, we do need some of itself. People can't just be in their heads all the time. Damn it. And in as so much as it was what it was. You know, it happened and now it's over, and now we can focus on the relationship between Teddy and the girl. So and that's where I am with this. There was one somewhat Jewish moment, or certainly Jewish moment in this. One of the first things that, you know, drugged up Sylvie did on the 3rd anniversary of her baby Delilah's death was she lit a yahrzeit candle for her, which in Jewish custom is a way to commemorate the dead on, well, technically the Hebrew anniversary of the day of their death. I don't know if she did, she probably did the English, not that, you know, I'm just saying. And, you know, it goes a little into how, you know, she's in an interfaith marriage. Her husband is agnostic, although, you know, she still obviously wanted her child to be raised enough to have a bar mitzvah. I don't know if we've just already streamed through that backstory, though, where she said, you know, I wanted to be more, you know, religious when I was, you know, at the beginning stages of the marriage, and then I sort of fell out of it, which, you know, kind of makes sense because, you know, in Judaism, like with a lot of communities, like you feel less of a connection when you're not, you know, actively part of that community. So I don't know if they'll talk about it more. I assume they'll have to, since this bar mitzvah is happening, and she's dragging Teddy along to Hebrew school, which is reminding me of my nonfiction pick, Here All Along by Sarah Hurwitz, where she talks about sort of the failure of how we treat Judaism for kids, where we drag them into this thing that they never like. And so that's where we are in a traditional American Jewish way in this story. Hopefully all the characters will get a little more about out of Judaism or out of life as the story goes on. Hopefully they'll get the help they need. But yeah, I'll be continuing along with this. And then finally, my last book of the month, which will be my carryover into June. It's here. It's A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I've talked in other videos and will reiterate the point here that this was my most anticipated release of 2020. I am a big Hunger Games fan, and particularly a big Mockingjay fan, the most contested of all the books, because I really believe in what Suzanne Collins is doing and how she wants to convey the idea of war to kids, of war, and also of these systems we prescribe to, like propaganda and entertainment and different types of government like democracy or authoritarianism. And I've really come to become a big fan of the fact that this is focused on President Snow when he was a young man, because I think this is about, as Collins stated in some of her official statements, about probing Pan Am at a different stage of its development before it was like quite so stringently authoritarian. The Hunger Games are only 10 years old. They are still feeling a lot of the backlash from this brutal civil war they had gone through. So I think that we'll be able to see different political and philosophical points come through, along hopefully with personal beats between Snow and the tributes from District 12, I think he'll be interacting with. Wish it weren't District 12, but you know, I'll take it. So yeah, I've tried my best to stay offline, and I certainly haven't looked at any of the reviews on BookTube or elsewhere. I don't know if I will. I'm perfectly okay with this being a personal experience for me. I'm not, you know, heartbroken that it isn't a bigger hyped up deal than, well, I guess it already technically was, but I don't think I've heard a lot about it, and I'm fine with that. I'm quite fine. I already have my own relationship with these books, and I am incredibly hopeful and about this one. Can't wait to get to it. So that about covers it for me now. Another major thing I have to get to ASAP is my BookTube Prize rankings. I also recently completed reading all of the 6 books in Group C of my nonfiction BookTube Prize quarterfinals. And yes, Robert, I got your email earlier today. You're anxiously awaiting all of us stragglers to go ahead and get our ballots in, so I just gotta go ahead and bite my nails, not for too much longer, about exactly how I want to rank these books. I won't say any more here. I don't want to spoil anything until the big videos are up. I know Robert's video should hopefully be up in a couple of days, pending people like me sending our ballots in. So yeah, as always, I'll link more information about the BookTube Prize down below. In the meantime, I hope you all are doing well with your end of month reading goals as we finish what in America seems to be the 2nd month in quarantine and pandemic reality, although I know a lot of places, including my own state, are slowly starting to open up again. Here's to hoping for good things, everyone. Remember, staying inside with a book is always an option. Unless you're called out to go back to work, which I haven't been yet, but might be in the cards, I don't know. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.